Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today. We're really excited to be here with you in Barcelona to celebrate the many new ways that you can build amazing add-ons on top of Confluence Connect for the cloud. I'm Ben, and this is Kate, and we're so privileged to enable you, the Confluence ecosystem, to build on Confluence. And it's amazing what both our team and what you have achieved in this past year. So we're so excited to have to talk about some of those achievements and also the opportunities that are ahead. But just before we dive into that, let's just have a quick recap as to how teams use Confluence. Our customers love Confluence because it is one place for their teams to get their job done together. And in the Confluence team, we've spent a significant amount of time gaining more and more understanding on how teams use Confluence. Teams use Confluence to collaborate on projects, to provide that context for a project, one place, and also to share that progress with stakeholders. They also use Confluence for reference documentation, to enable other teams to self-serve and for them to get their job done. Finally, teams use Confluence to capture their combined knowledge, to grow together and to become a smarter, more effective team that you heard Sri talking a little bit about in the keynote this morning. And in the server ecosystem, it's been a combination of Confluence and a rich, diverse ecosystem of add-ons that is enabling teams to get these jobs done. And a big area of attention for us over the past year has been to also enable a rich, diverse ecosystem in the cloud. We've been working really hard to support key use cases, key add-ons to be able to be available for teams in the cloud. But the cloud also presents opportunities. Confluence has unique opportunities to integrate with a huge number of technical and business content services that are available in the cloud today. I'm sure many of you could think of at least 5 or 6 of those services, and perhaps you use them, you might move between them. But there's an opportunity in Confluence to bring that content together into one place. The cloud also presents some opportunities to develop extensions that can be done at scale, so analytics, recommendations, anything that works on a big data set. And we've been working to enable both integrations and these at scale type of extensions as opportunities in the cloud as well. So how have we been enabling these opportunities? By building Lego. Well, okay, well not quite, although I was actually building this awesome plane with my son at Christmas time. It's a great opportunity to relive your youth, to of course give him the presents that he wants. So these models are made from a combination of generic and specialized pieces. And it is amazing what the result can be. But what's really neat about these kits is that you can build more than one model from these kits. So we built a platform, and this is one way of thinking, I think, of building different types of add-ons. We provide the building blocks, but we don't just want to hand over a number of these building blocks to you. How does Lego let you build both of these two planes with those awesome Lego instructions? So here's my son here, presenting you with the same instructions that we followed at Christmas time. And so this is what we call patterns. And we've been developing a number of patterns that are reusable ways of extending Confluence and building those add-ons that we know users want in the cloud ecosystem. Not only that, we've been working with a number of you to fast-track shipping those add-ons to the marketplace, validating those patterns along the way, and setting a foundation for many others to follow in their stead. We don't just want to see add-ons available in the marketplace, however. We want to make sure that users know about them, that users can connect them to those jobs that they want to get done, and ultimately to love using those add-ons as well. And there's a lot we have been doing and will continue to do to increase the accelerated growth of the marketplace, which we'll give you some insight into a bit later in the presentation. So today we're going to cover some patterns, talk about how you can join that growing marketplace, and then look ahead to Summit. So now I'm going to hand over to Kate to start with our APIs.
Cool. Cheers. Hi, everyone. My name's Kate, and I'm a developer on the Confluence ecosystem team. So as been covered, Confluence is the place that you go to collaborate and get stuff done with your team. It's supported by a range of really rich content features and, of course, add-ons. Spaces also provide a really important structural and organizational role for this content. We've got a world-class API for your add-ons to manage the content and spaces. So what's new in our REST API? Well, recently, we've added new REST APIs for managing your content history and drafts. We've also expanded our existing APIs for blueprints and templates. Our metadata options have really grown in the last while with content, space, and add-on properties. These allow you to store your add-on data directly inside Confluence. This not only simplifies your hosting solution, but also allows you to integrate with Confluence Search and macros also. We also have expansions in our API. These allow you to dive really deep into the data without looping your REST calls. Onto our Search API, CQL, or if you're not already familiar with it, Confluence Query Language, has really expanded in the last while. It's got a really easy SQL-like syntax, and it covers searching for spaces, content, and users. It's also extensible and also can integrate with macros and Confluence Search. For more advanced interaction in the product, in the backend we have webhooks. These are a really great way of getting updates on what's happening inside Confluence. So your content updates and user activity. In the front end, we have our JavaScript APIs. Recently, these have expanded with new navigation APIs to allow your add-on to navigate the user to different places inside Confluence. We've also got more event handling opportunities, and to bring this all together, we have new enhancements to connect dialogues. So in all, this is a really rich content API. We can't go into too much detail of these specific how to use them, but later in the talk, Ben will talk about some updates to our developer documentation to help you get started. So let's dive into some of those patterns that Ben mentioned before. So our API alone is super awesome, but we've also got patterns such as macros. You may be already familiar with these. They're an awesome way of extending the content in Confluence from inside a page. They're really cool because of all of the possible use cases that they allow. So what can you build with them? The first one that macros are really great for is integrations. So if, say, you have an external product or service, you can integrate certain aspects of that inside a Confluence page, then with jumping off points to your actual external service for a more immersive view. So this is an integration that MindMeister recently built. You can see the diagram on a page, but it also has a way of getting out to the full experience of MindMeister also. You can also create specialized content. So this is content that may not be possible with just pages and blogs. For this, you would need to also define your own editing experience to edit your special content. You can also create compose content with macros. So here's an example of the Adaptivist Forms macro, which uses the macro body, which the user can edit, to use multiple macros to build up a form where different fields will be parts of the macro, and then when the user goes to the view page, it will render how you want. Let's talk about how macros work. So on the view page, you get an inline iframe, which you can populate with data from your external service. For users to create macros, they can do this in one of a few ways, one of them being the insert menu, where you can feature your logo. You can also use autoconvert. So this is where you associate your macro with a particular link pattern. Then when a user pastes that link into Confluence, Confluence will recognize it and then substitute it with the correct macro. You also need options for editing it, because of all the rich ways that you can extend Confluence, you need editing options. So we give you a default editor for free. This allows you to edit your properties of the macro and also provides a previewer. But if that doesn't fit your use case, you can also override it with a custom editor. So this is an iframe inside a modal dialog that you can override. If you want to go further, and in particular with integrating external services and experiences, you may wish to use the full screen designer. So This allows a consistent way for users to get back into the experience of Confluence, while also giving your add-on the most screen real estate that it can. And then back down into the normal Confluence editing experience, we're also now allowing you to override the property panel. This is particularly good for things like simple properties like the macro size or a simple color that you can quickly change. I'll now hand back to Ben to talk more about some other integration patterns.
Thanks, Kate. So let's talk about page extensions that you also heard about a little bit at the keynote this morning. Here is a page, and one obvious way to extend Confluence is to create an action and add it to the page menu. You can perform actions from this menu, such as exporting a page to a different form of content for collaborating with teams who use other tools and systems, or you can perform an operation on the page itself. New here at Atlas Camp is an extension to the byline. So you might know that byline is where it says who created and when that user or another user last modified that page. And we're really pleased to announce that shipped now, you can build on this right now, is the ability for add-ons to provide additional pieces of context to the page on that byline. This is a great way of showing, at a glance, related information to a page, whether that is related to other recommended content, workflows, document signing. There are a huge number of use cases that this byline extension can support. If a user is interested in what that little piece of dynamic information is showing them, they can also then click into that byline extension. And your add-on has the ability to show a custom experience within this panel to provide even more information to the user. And the user can perform actions in this window, and those actions can also dynamically update with our JavaScript API, the content in the byline above as well. So this is a rich way of creating workflows around content in Confluence. Here's a specific example of an add-on that is about 1 week away from shipping that provides related content to the page. It's a cloud add-on, so it can leverage the scale of cloud infrastructure to bring together content that is inside of Confluence and outside, and adds value to the user's experience when viewing a page in Confluence. And this is just one of the many possible use cases that can be built using the byline extension and page extensions generally. Not only can you extend pages, but you can also extend search. We're really proud of our CQL API. It's amazing what you can do. And since last Atlas Camp, we've also enabled you to alias content properties and use them within the API itself. So let's say you have built an add-on that categorizes pages. And so by creating an alias for that property called category, registering that with Confluence, it means that even at the API level, your API's calls can filter on that category and then select the related pages in Confluence, blogs, and so on that has that category as your add-on has defined it. So you can see how you can maybe use a page extension and then integrate with search to build an even richer add-on. But it isn't just at the API level. This is the site search experience in Confluence. And by creating an alias, you're also integrating that alias with the search experience itself. So users can filter on what your add-on concepts are providing to Confluence. So these are the ways that you can integrate your add-on experience with the Confluence user experience. And now I'm going to hand over to Kate to talk about some more amazing patterns.
So we've talked a lot about how you can integrate with Confluence, but what about creating with Confluence? So let's talk about blueprints. So if you're not already familiar with them, blueprints are a really great way to allow your teams to rapidly and consistently create content. So they're particularly good for things like meeting notes and planning pages. We've recently added support for dynamic blueprints. So these allow you to define templates with variables inside them, which your add-on can substitute those variables at the time of page creation. We also have added support for multi-page blueprints, so you can now define a hierarchy of pages that will be created when someone uses the blueprint. To put this more in context, let's talk about a use case. So when I first started at Atlassian, it was awesome getting access to our internal Confluence, but there's so much information that I didn't really know where to start. Usually getting access to important pages happened by people sending me links in HipChat or... So what you could do to solve this problem is you could create an add-on that would create a landing page for your new, like a welcome pack for your new starters, customized to them using our dynamic blueprints and using the multi-page blueprint to create different structured pages for their first 90 days or places they could go to get help with their learning. So here's the multi-page hierarchy and split up into multiple pages. So blueprints don't just work for normal content. You can also use them to create pages that contain macros and checklists. So blueprints were our first example of creating with Confluence, but we want to take the idea further. So brand new at Atlassian, as Sharif mentioned before, we're announcing custom content. For some time, the ecosystem has been asking us to enable add-ons like Confluence questions. Well, with custom content for Connect, you can now do that. It allows you to store your custom data directly inside Confluence, allowing you to build entire applications with Confluence rather than just integrating with what we already have. Let's talk about the structure of custom content. So like with your native Confluence content, your content lives in a space. This means it declares a container type of space. But beyond that, the structure is really up to you. You could use multiple custom content to build up a full application. But spaces aren't the only way that you could use custom content. You can also have them underneath a page as well. To use custom content, you just start by defining it as a module in your add-on descriptor. This is where you can declare the container type and the child types for your content. Custom content also allows you to go further and create an entirely new user experience. So things like the karma system involved in Confluence questions would now be possible. You can also define a custom list item view for your custom content, which is then associated with a link with a full page view that you can also define yourself. To support that custom view, you start by defining a UI support module in your add-on descriptor. And then together with a linked general page module, that's how you can control the layout and view of that entire custom content view. You can also participate in the search screen. So all you need to do is define keywords on each piece of content and then enable indexing with our add-on descriptor, and then your content will show up in the search. So your keywords are stored in a content property on your piece of custom content. The content properties were those key value pairs that you can store using the REST API against a piece of content. So this is how you would integrate with search. So we see people using Confluence for a lot of different things, to get a lot of different jobs done, from executing projects to creating reference documentation. And add-ons are really great at supporting this, but what's great about custom content is that not only will support these existing use cases, but allow people to get new kinds of jobs done that we haven't even thought of yet. If you're interested in custom content, I really, really strongly recommend you go see Steve's talk. He'll go more into the technical details of how to use it and also talk more about what's possible. We've only gone into like a single use case here, but there are so many things you could do with it. I'll now pass back to Ben, who'll talk about our developer experience.
I don't know if you've ever felt this way when learning a new technology. Maybe the documentation, there just isn't enough of it there, and just that you just can't get started quickly. There's just this gravity situation that you're battling against. Well, we've launched a new developer experience for Confluence Connect to really help you get started more quickly and to get going and to become experts. A good developer experience isn't just documentation, though. It's empathy for developers and an understanding of where developers are at, whether they're just getting started, getting going, or are experts. With our new developer experience, we're giving you a way of quickly getting started. We've provided some ideas about what you can build, some of the content that we've already given today, but also quick start tutorials to help you practically get into things quickly and get something working inside of Confluence Connect. And if you are in that place yourself, I really encourage you to see Matthew Jensen's breakout talk on getting started with Confluence. He'll effectively be leading you through that tutorial, so you can ask any questions live. It's also the starting point for going to multiple of the Confluence breakout talks. You can almost get a training end-to-end experience by going to each of the the Confluence breakout talks here at camp. We know that as you have gotten past that first step, you want to get going and you want more guidance. And for that, we have provided pages to discuss each of the patterns that we've talked about today. Talk about what you can build with them, related technical and design documentation, and how you can get going. And we've also delivered 4 tutorials already, and we have more in the works that we'll be shipping next week and in the weeks coming to make sure that we have patterns for tutorials for each of the patterns for you to get practical hands-on experience. And last but not least, we know that if you're familiar with Confluence Connect, you just want to get back to that reference documentation that you need to get going. Here's an example of one of those pattern pages where we're linking out to other content. We're going through the pattern, describing what you can build to it, and also related patterns, because whilst an add-on will build on one pattern primarily, it may also use aspects of other patterns to deliver a richer experience to users. We're sweating the details a bit on some of the design aspects to really give you answers to many of the questions you ask us about design. We know in some areas we provide a canvas for you to create an entire experience, and you and us together want to provide a consistent overall experience to end users. So we're giving guidelines to help make that possible. Brian Swift is doing a tech talk, a breakout talk just on that. So feel free to check out the Design Guidelines breakout talk to hear some of the details of this design guidance. And last but not least, this was our REST API documentation as of just about a month ago. We're super pleased to be able to refresh that so that you can get going quickly. So, just so I can get all of my children into this presentation, the end result, we hope, is that instead of an uphill battle, you will enjoy a nice, smooth experience getting started with Confluence. Just to finish off, let's talk about what we're working on in the days ahead. You heard in the keynote this morning the exciting announcement of theming for Connect. And this is about pages, spaces, being able to be tailored to represent both a team and a company's brand, but also to provide support for specialized jobs. So let's get straight into the last pattern we'll be talking about today, which is theming. We see theming in cloud differently to theming in server, and that's because the cloud is inherently different to server. One of our guiding principles is to maintain an Atlassian connection because the cloud is an online service. We want to make sure that customers have a continued connection with us and that we can continue to support them and make sure that the service is running well and delivered on time. Also, we want to build a sustainable API. The way that theming is approached in P2 has a lot of surface area between the product and themes, and so we want to build an API that allows us to support it well and also for both Atlassian and for vendors to move fast. And last but not least, we want a consistent core experience. And particularly in areas like content collaboration, we want to ensure that those content collaboration features, plus other add-ons that enhance that collaboration, are able to work smoothly for users. So the first component of theming for Connect is a flexible landing experience. Users do see the familiar header of Confluence and also the navigation bar, which is being built currently in the Confluence team. Part of it is in the cloud today and more is coming, so expect to hear more about that in upcoming conferences. But the central area is an open canvas for themes to present a specialized landing experience for users, and we have a rich set of APIs now to allow you to build out the same menus that Confluence has access to. Confluence itself uses those same REST APIs, and also the ability to render content via an API as well. We've been working a lot hard on an API to render content outside of the core of Confluence and in add-ons such as Connect. Here's another example of a landing experience that is a bit more specific to a space level or a team level. And we know that there's often a situation where there are teams who serve other teams in a company. And here's an example of a learning portal inside of Atlassian where a non-typical experience has been provided at a space level for other teams who need to access the information and ultimately learn in this case. Now, when we get to content, it is not an open canvas, but instead more of a configurable experience. And so we're currently exploring all the different configuration options that we can provide to enable that the add-ons can change the look and feel of Confluence content in a rich manner, but still allowing collaboration features, the other add-ons that extend Confluence to be surfaced through to users. We also want to delegate the way users navigate within a space to theming add-ons. So maybe the page tree doesn't work for the job that the space is performing, and so the theming add-on for this space is providing the ability to navigate by topic. And we're exploring having this panel being open for add-ons to provide a custom navigation experience to users for that space. Not only that, but exploring theming for the cloud in Confluence has caused us to also think about theming even more broadly at Atlassian. We're exploring how theming will apply to Jira Service Desk with custom styling for portals where there is a strong branding and custom experience requirement. We're also exploring what theming means to Jira and to what extent, maybe not as deep as a deep landing experience, but to what degree theming will apply there. And last but not least, in the cloud, more and more at Atlassian, we're providing shared experiences across our products as services with a user experience. And so it's important to us to consider experiences such as the people directory and how they can be customized and themed across Atlassian products. You can see there are so many opportunities there to theme, not just for a branding perspective, but also from a use case perspective. You can provide communities with themes, a way of bringing people together to work in that one place that Confluence is so great for. To provide internal services such as learning portals, HR portals, marketing, legal, so on. The cloud presents new opportunities like blog streams that reach a much wider audience. Reference documentation often has specialized styling requirements that themings can provide. Project collaboration also has specific requirements, and we're touching on some of those jobs. And what else? This is a work in progress, and I encourage you, if you're interested, to see Drew's talk on theming, where he'll go into even more technical detail and the options that we're looking to provide to theming vendors. But we're really here to understand more from you about what use cases you see unlocked by Connect theming and what you would like us to support in that framework. So the title of this talk is Confluence is Ready for Prime Time. And with the exception of theming, everything else is shipped to the cloud today for you to get working on. And we have a new experience launched today for you to get straight into it and build on these new patterns. We've had familiar add-ons migrate to the latest version of our cloud platform in Connect. Add-ons such as Balsamic Mockups and Glyphy is about to ship as well in the next 1 to 2 weeks. And what that really shows is that we have closed the gap with what can be done in macros and those related types of add-ons between server and cloud. Not only that, but new add-ons are shipping fast. This mind map integration, in fact, this and a second integration by the same company went from beginning to shipped in only 8 weeks. And not only that, but we're super pleased to have, just 2 days ago, another add-on ship, Atomic, a high-fidelity design prototyping solution, shipped yesterday, or the day before yesterday, in only 4 weeks from start to finish. So you can see how rapid the acceleration is getting with our ability to support new vendors joining and building and shipping quick integrations to the marketplace. With a new developer experience, it is now easy to get started and get going and become an expert in Confluence. And we're going to continue to put effort into this to add more and more tutorials and create a rich community for you, our ecosystem. This is the actual growth of our ecosystem, and it's amazing that in only 7 months, the size of the ecosystem has nearly doubled. And we know, based upon the vendors we're currently working with, that that growth is going to continue to accelerate as we approach Summit. This is an actual photo of my presentation at last Summit, and it was packed. In fact, it was so packed that I heard stories of angry users outside who couldn't get in, and which we have to do, just for safety reasons. And so we re-held the talk the next day. And it blew me away, and it ended up being the highest attended non-keynote talk last Summit. And this just goes some way to show you the interest that there is in end users on the topic of customizing Confluence, of extending Confluence with add-ons. So it's ready for prime time. There are many, many opportunities. And we can't wait for the upcoming Summit to celebrate the diversity of add-ons available in the marketplace, hopefully to another packed audience like this. Hopefully there'll be a bigger room next time, so we'll fit all of them in. And we're really thankful for working with you, many of you, on the path to now, and continuing to work with you onto Summit to ship even more add-ons to create an amazing ecosystem. We've touched on each of the 4 tracks, the breakout talks, so I encourage you to get to them and get from end to end, an end-to-end experience of building on Confluence. Please check out this link if you want to get in touch with us and express your interest in building on Confluence Connect. We'd love to hear from you, and we're happy to work with you to make your dream a reality and create a diverse marketplace. Thank you, everybody.